Welcome back, SlamBall fans and prospective SlamBall fans, to another 2023 SlamBall season preview. My name is Sam Roberts. You can find me on social media at Quantum Roberts, QUANTUM Roberts, and you're listening or watching Bounce Off a SlamBall podcast. Today we are doing a season preview for the Mob. Very excited about this one. Very excited to talk the Mob, to talk about the greatest franchise in SlamBall history, one of three returning franchises for the 2023 season, and the winningest franchise in league history. As their catchphrase goes, don't go against the family. I love how gimmicky the Mob are. I really like that there's a team called the Mob and that they've had to stick around since 2002 because they've won a bunch of titles. So the Mob are the only team in league history to win a title in 2016 and to win a title in back-to-back seasons, which was 2012 and 2016. They're the only team to do that, but they also won in 2007. The interesting thing about this, all three of those seasons were truncated seasons. Not in terms of games, they played the same number of games, but there was only 4 teams in each season, 4 teams in the league in each season, rather than the standard 8. Does that pen work as one? 8? That we'll see in this season. So it's interesting. It's interesting to know their history and to know that they've got the same coaching staff as they used to, and we'll talk about the coaching staff. But first we've got to talk about the players. Okay? First we've got to talk about the players that make up the Mob. This is in draft order from a snake-style draft that the SlamBall League did last week. So their first round pick, the 4th overall pick in the whole draft, was Cameron Horton. He's 26 years old. He's from Jacksonville, Alabama. You thought I was going to say Florida. He's 6'2", 175 pounds, and a handler. He's a little bit light at any position in SlamBall these days, but he's tall. He's a tall guy. And he's a basketball player. He's a good basketball player. He shot 43% from the field, 34% from three-point range in 3 years at Life University. Real university, look it up. Their team name is the Running Eagles. Love it. In that time, he averaged 3.5 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, and 1.1 steals per game. The numbers are a little bit low, given that he is supposed to be your main passing guy at 2.2, but it's still higher than most players in the SlamBall League at the moment, those that did play basketball in college. So we can be hopeful about that. And more importantly, looking at Cam Horton's highlights, he knows how to draw defenders in the half court, and he knows where the space is and how to make passes. So I'm excited about that from that aspect. In terms of finesse around the rim, which is important in SlamBall because often you're having to finish around much bigger players in the stopper position, the main defensive position that this sport has. You're having to finish around them in the air, and having a little bit of finesse goes a long way because yes, you could just dunk over them. If you don't know, in SlamBall, 4 trampolines underneath each basket, full contact, basketball is the base, right? Dunks are worth 3 points. Shots from outside are worth 3 points. This guy can shoot from outside. He can dunk the ball. But he can also finish around the rim, which is kind of important if you can't dunk over the stopper. You know, if you need to go left, if you need to go right. The trampoline can even add to that because it makes something that would have been a layup in a normal basketball game a beautiful layup to get around a guy. It turns it into a dunk around a guy, so you can still get the 3 points. On that, he's also unafraid of contact, going at defenders, going into defenders, taking them in the body. So there's a lot to like about that. When it comes to dunking, he's one of those guys that sort of floats into the air, okay? He elevates into the air. He floats upwards, right? At his peak in college, he was shooting 35% from 3. And in terms of how many he was shooting, this isn't like, he took 10 a game and he made, that's a bad example. It's not like he took 5 a game and he made 4. He took a lot of shots, right, over the course of a season. He took more than most people have in this league. And he did it at a decent clip. 35% is decent. Most of these shots coming off his own dribble, which is a good quality to have in SlamBall. Yes, you're sometimes going to get passes back out to you. You make a pass inside the trampolines, Guy gets caught in the air, throws it back out to you, open 3-point shot from outside. But it's also nice to have a guy who can make that shot on his own and doesn't need to wait for the ball to come back to him. Can get around a defender, just pull up for a 3-point shot. Especially nice if maybe, I don't know, if low in the shot clock or low late in the game, you just need to get a shot up. Having a guy who can shoot from distance is nice. He's also the first guy I've seen, as another big positive about Cam Horton, as a 6'2", 175-pound handler. He's the only guy I've seen in terms of uploading highlights to Instagram who's showing a variety of abilities within the basketball court. Within the SlamBall court. Whether that be finishing over stoppers in the air, whether that be making assists to other players while he's also in the air. So that's jumping, drawing the eyes of the defense, drawing the eyes of the stopper, the main defensive person on the other team, and then making a pass to someone who's in a better position or who's coming in from another side and has a better angle on the hoop. That's really good. And also understanding when to go straight at the rim and when to maybe take an extra bounce so that your timing is better against the stopper so that they're going down while you're going up. These are all things that I've not seen anyone else show off yet. I'm excited for that variety in scoring in terms of in terms of from distance, but also at the rim, etc. And I'm excited to see what Cameron Horton can do at the handler position. He's my favourite on this team of all the players to be an all-star, okay? I think there's another guy that could be, but there's something that holds him back, and it's very arbitrary, but we will get into it. So Cameron Horton, their first-round pick, and a potential all-star. Potential at the handler position. 6'2", 175 pounds, 35% from three. Decent assist numbers, okay? Their second-round pick was Darius Clark, 28 years old from Blue Springs, Missouri. I love the name of where you're from, Darius. I think it's very cool. I was going to say quaint, but that seems diminutive. It was very cool. 6'2", 200 pounds as a gunner. That's quite small for the gunner position in modern SlamBall. So the gunner position, always running at the basket, trying to dunk on people's heads, just try to catch the ball in the air. It seems small when you're competing against stoppers that are heavier and like 3 inches bigger. That being said, we've also seen guys like Sean Inches Jackson who are 5'10", Lu Feng who's 5'8", be successful in SlamBall. And they weren't even world record holders, according to Guinness, for the highest vertical leap with a running start. This man, Darius Clark, jumped 50 inches into the air with a running start. Again, I've said this many times, I don't know for sure if jumping ability naturally or jumping ability outside of a trampoline impacts your jumping ability in a trampoline. But I'll tell you this much, there's a whole hell of a lot of guys who have a background in athletics and long jump and distance jumping who are getting drafted into this league. And that probably tells you something about the importance and the quality of leaping ability. So Darius Clark, really good at that. His highlights show how insane that leaping ability is. He's sort of able to float really high above the rim, like almost getting his like neck above the back of the backboard, okay, from just jumping in the front trampoline. Okay, no build up, just straight and up, right? And that's exciting. He was a second-team All-American in college for athletics in 2021. And since he's a long jumper and vertical training coach, there's not really stats that I can find in terms of like his basketball ability where I can give you numbers and shooting percentage and he did this, he did that. What you need to know about this guy, he can jump high and he went in the second round. He went, let me do my maths here, 8 and then 5. He went 14th. Yeah, 14th overall, which is probably saying that he can do more than just dunk. Or even if he can just dunk, that's a pretty good thing if the handler's just going, here you go. Go get that. Slam it in. Their third round pick is the guy who could be an all-star, but I'm not saying he's not on my short list because there's something holding him back compared to the other guys in his position. Okay, we're talking about Gage Smith. He's 23 years old. He's from Elizabeth, Colorado. He's 6'6", 225 pounds, and he plays stopper. He was a forward at Concordia University, where in his senior year, the 2022-23 season, He averaged 13 points per game, 8.8 rebounds a game, 4.2 assists per game, 1.7 steals, and 1.2 blocks per game. Looking at those numbers now, those are juiced for college numbers, comparing them to other guys. 13 points per game is decent, 8.8 rebounds per game is really good, 4.2 assists per game is really, really good. These are great blocking numbers at 1.2 for a small forward, high rebounds, and a high number of steals per game at 1.7 are really good in terms of his timing. Not just on the defensive end, but again in SlamBall, it's just all about timing. When to jump to go at a guy, when to start your run-up for a face-off, when to get into the trampoline as a stopper, his position to get in front of someone. These are all really good signs. He's just finished college and has shown a big competitive desire. Sticking with the same college for 5 years, winning championships in the last 2, I believe. And that tells you he might want to win another one with the mob. He might want to add to that winning mentality. We'll have to wait and see. During his time at Concordia, he's shown a lot of ability with passing with those 4 assists per game, specifically for guys who are cutting to the basket from behind the basket, okay? And that works in SlamBall if you're at the top of the key, at the top, like right in front of the rim, right in front of the basket, in front of the first tramp, right? And you are, as the stopper, that's where I'm expecting you to be if you're involved in the offense. And you've got guys going this way and that way and running along the back where the basket is, coming from the side, going into the side trampoline and going up at the rim. He can find those guys. And not only can he find them in a half-court setting, but he's thrown some incredible passes in his time at college, one of them being a half-court pass, bulleted, that goes straight to a guy cutting baseline. But he's also good at understanding where his team is supposed to be generally. So if you put him in an offensive set and have guys cutting off him and going left and right, he can find the guy, hopefully. That's great. He's also got some decent shooting stats. He was 47% from the field and 30% from 3 during his final year at Concordia, right? Over his whole college career, that 3-point percentage jumps to 33%, and that was primarily off catching and shooting the ball, okay? Again, man, why haven't I put this guy as an all-star? As a potential all-star? I might be changing that as we're talking, because I like a 3-point shooter, and I like a guy that can make a pass, and he can definitely make a pass, and he can definitely shoot the 3. Not amazing compared to some guys, but the assist numbers are better than most. And I don't care if you don't need to be coming off the dribble as a stopper. You need to be catching the ball and shooting it from the top of the ramp. I don't know how high the arc is, which is a thing I'd quite like. But minimum, he's got 2 categories I really like for the stopper. He's tall. He's got some weight to him. This guy might be an all-star. Maybe I'm not giving Gage Smith enough credit. His finishing around the rim and composure under pressure won him a match at college. Throwing full court with 1.1 seconds left, caught it up at the rim and managed to sink it in. He's also hit 3-point shots late in the shot clock where he's got 2 defenders in front of him. He goes into air, one of them comes at him. He sort of hangs a second longer, crumples down, then goes back up and hits the shot, right? These are things that are good for a basketball player to have, and just generally make you confident in his abilities. He's seemed good at catching and finishing around the rim. Again, good for getting past bigger stoppers. And he seems unafraid of taking contact, whether it be people coming at him as he's going to dunk or whatever it might be. But he's also shown the ability that he doesn't need to take that contact. You know what I mean? Like he can sort of go to the left and finish, or go to the right and finish, and not just get hit out of midair. He could show me what I want to see from a stopper. So why am I certain about him as an all-star? Well, if you look at the guys I've mentioned, I think every team stopper so far has interested me in some way. And I think part of this is fatigue. 4 teams in out of 8. And I'm just like, I can't keep picking stoppers as potential all-stars. I can't go through this all. And I think the reason I've kind of settled on him not being, although I'm changing that now, he's going into the shortlist. We'll have another look at him closer to the start of the season. Is he's just not broad. And that's like not great. But if I'm looking at the people I'm comparing him to, they've all got big shoulders. They're wide dudes. And Gage doesn't strike me as broad. But maybe he's long. Maybe he can get his arms up there and contest shots and do really well. So Gage Smith, 6'6", 225-pound stopper from Elizabeth, Colorado, 23 years old. yeah, I'm not giving him enough credit. I am not giving him enough credit. But we'll see how he does on the SlamBall court in a couple of weeks' time. Their 4th round pick, Brandon Smith. Sorry, that's just fundamentally wrong. Brandon Simpson, 24 years old from Germantown, Missouri. Is that 2 Missouri guys in this team? Yeah, 2 Missouri guys. I like it. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. He's playing handler. That's big for a handler. Again, he's a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter than their stopper. He's taller than their second round pick gunner. He's taller than their other handler, and he's got 30 pounds of weight on the handler as well, or thereabouts. Yeah, 30 pounds of weight. He's big. He's a big guy to be playing that position that's traditionally for smaller dudes so they can distribute the ball. You could easily have him play gunner instead of handler, but he's listed as a handler. Interesting. Excuse me. He averaged 10.9 points per game over 5 years playing for Emmanuel College. In that time, he also had 1.8 assists per game and 4.9 rebounds per game. He's listed as a guard, so the 1.8 assists per game doesn't jump out at me, but it's looking like a league average that we're seeing in the SlamBall league, so it's fine. The 4.9 rebounds, decent number, exciting in terms of like going for the ball, especially as someone who's listed as a guard. He's shooting from 3 in volume. He takes a lot of 3-point shots compared to other guys, and he's shooting 34% from distance, which is a good number. Again, Gage Smith, we just talked about having a good number at 33%, 34% more. That's even better. Great outside shooting from this guy. Plus size, he's going to be a threat at the basket and away from the basket. His scoring generally was slightly better in his senior year, his last year at Emmanuel College. So he was averaging 10.9 points per game and 4.9 rebounds. In his last year, it was 11.5 points per game and 5.5 rebounds. So, a 0.6 increase for both of those by comparison, which shows he was improving year on year, which means that now, coming out of that year, coming out of those 5 years, this is, you're hoping he's improving. The flaw with that theory is when he went to the pro leagues, he played 1 year for Quimés, is how I'm going to attempt to pronounce it, Quimés, in Argentina, and his 3-point shooting fell off a cliff. So we've just talked about it being 34%, shooting a lot over his 5 years. He played 8 games in Argentina and he only took 18 shots. But if my maths is right, that's 2 out of 18 I think he got on the 11%, which isn't great. His scoring dropped to 6.8 points per game. And obviously you're going to a pro league, it's going to get a little bit harder. But you'd wish that 3-point percentage would have stayed. Maybe it's disappeared since leaving college. Maybe it'll come back for SlamBall. We can hope. He was getting 3.5 rebounds per game, which is really, really good as a guard, playing guard in a pro league with adult grown-ass men. 3.5 rebounds per game is still good, so I still like that. Okay. Looking at his highlights from both high school and college, these are the things that jump out to me. He's unafraid of contact at the rim. That's people hitting him in the body as he's going up to dunk. That's something he does regularly, whether it be dunks or whether it being hit out the air and still throwing the ball up and it goes in, or whether it be going for rebounds. He's fine with that contact. He's regularly timing his jumps well, whether it be to catch baskets and for alley-oops, whether it's for put-back dunks or just put-back rebound shots, or whether it's to make blocks. Same with rebounds. He fights over multiple defenders at times, but he also just goes straight up and grabs the ball because he knows where it's going and when to time his leap. This is all good. This is all good for a game. All about timing your jumps appropriately, He's good as a defender, right? Just flat out good as a defensive guy. On the ball and also playing help inside around the basket. So he gets into passing lanes. He disrupts the offense. He's a beast at moving his feet on ball to stay with his defender. I like this guy as a disruptor. I think you have him at handler because of his size. And because if you pair him up against some of the better handlers in this league, this guy is going to eat their lunch. This guy could really make it hard for them. And again, he's big. And I think could be playing gunner instead of handler. screw it. He's slightly undersized, but you could play him at stopper if you wanted to. Have him try and block everything. But even if you don't, have him just be a guy who comes and helps the stopper, who just gets into the trampolines, goes up and tries to get in the way of passing lanes. Really good from Brandon Simpson here. Very, very nice. I like to see it. Shoots a lot of catch and shoot threes, so that high 3-point percentage, that's not coming from him creating it himself. That's him getting the ball passed back to him and shooting. Not ideal from a handler. You'd like it to be a little bit of both. It is almost always a catch and shoot. It's not ideal, but it's also not the worst thing in the world. If you're passing it inside to the tramps and it gets thrown back out to you and you've got an open shot, that's fine. He's got nice finishing around the rim. We've already said he's fine at taking contact, but he's also good at sort of maneuvering himself in the air, making a play, scoring the basket. Nice at finishing around the rim. I like it. He's also shown an ability to find players on the cut. We're talking about that for Gage Smith. We've now got two guys, probably in the starting lineup, who are good at seeing where their teammates are going around the back of the basket, making that pass, getting them the ball in open space. I like Brandon Simpson. I'm not putting him down as a potential all-star. You may say, Sam, why? I think it's just this team's going to be weird structure-wise, and I don't know. I also don't think that this team isn't exciting me the same way the Lava did, talking about them. So I don't really want to give them 3 potential all-stars, but I wouldn't be upset if Simpson did really well, and I'd be, as a fan of SlamBall, who's like already fan designing, like, oh, what are the jerseys going to be? Are they going to bring back the black, red, and gold? That's still their logo. Is it going to be black with a red and a gold stripe? Is it still names on the back? What numbers are these guys going to have? I'd buy a Simpson mob jersey if this guy ends up being a beast and scoring like 25 a game regularly. I'd happy with that. So hopefully he does well. He's not jumping out at me, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. We now get into their 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks, and it becomes a little bit harder for me because there's not much on the mob bench, right? Because I think those 4 are going to be the starters, right? You may go, Sam, you mentioned a gunner, 2 handlers, and a stopper. They're the starters? Yes, I think we're going for an unconventional starting lineup for the mob this season, and we're going to go for 2 handlers, a gunner, and 1 stopper. But we will talk about them. I've basically just given it away. Starting with their bench, Cameron Hollins, 28 years old. He's from Avon, Indiana. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, and a gunner. Kind of small height-wise for a gunner, but he is a professional dunker for the Indiana Pacers dunk team. Really springy legs, already learning to get creative inside a SlamBall setup. He's used to trampolines and doing impressive things in the air to entertain the crowd at Indiana Pacers games. Now he's got 4 trampolines to work with, right? He was recreating, they've got a dunk ideator, like an Imagineer, if you will, like Disney has, but for dunks and SlamBall, sort of going through with the guys' potential moves they could do. And he came up with this one, and Cameron Hollins blasted it out of the park, right? So it's back tramp, right? Front tramp, throw the ball in the air, catch it in the back tramp, jump backwards into a backflip, and then propel yourself forward into a dunk. Right? And it go on this guy's Instagram. It's beautiful, man. It's one of his reels on Instagram, and it's just so pretty. You have no idea how pretty this is. I love it. I think it's really good. And if he pulls it off in a game, I'll lose it. I'll lose it completely. He's also able to get a lot of height, jumping just from the front tramp, but that is with no dribbles. His assistant coach, Noah Ballou, who we'll talk about in a moment, was getting on at him in the Instagram comments, basically like, dribble the ball! It's a travel! You got to dribble the ball! You can't just run with the ball in SlamBall. You have to dribble it a little bit. You still get, like in basketball, you're allowed to pick it up and take 2 steps, but anything outside the tramps, you need to dribble. So maybe it's not, he's probably going to be fine, but it's not that great if you can't dribble it and do it, but it's fine. It's fine. He's a varied athlete. So in his time in high school, he was obviously a long jumper, did distance and stuff like that. But he was also a decathlete, so 10 sports in one, right? This guy can do it all. And did it all to a high level, taking on like state champions and stuff like that. But he also did he also did running. So he did 60-meter hurdles. He got 8.25 seconds, which is a really good time. Really good time for high school hurdles. So he's fast, long legs, a long-legged Mac Daddy. Mac Daddy Cam Hollins. Can we make that a nickname? Probably not. Expect a lot of dunks, but I don't know what he can do basketball-wise. Right. After him, it was Justin Holloway, 31 from Columbus, Ohio, 6'1", 180 pounds handler. Another guy, 6'1", a little bit smaller. No details on him on the official SlamBall site. Nothing, right? His Instagram highlights show that he's already getting some of the skills down for SlamBall, which is great. He understands how to get from one tramp to another tramp moving with the ball. You can't just go tramp to tramp. You have to make a play on the basket or throw the ball in the air and catch it before you land on another trampoline, or dribble, like bounce the ball off the trampolines or off the island in between them. It's like, you've got to be able to do that, and he's showing an ability. He's got a really quick first step, explosive into the back tramp, attacking the stopper. So if this guy's coming off the bench, if you're going up against a stopper who's maybe had some hits already and is tired already in the game, and then Justin Holloway comes barreling at you at 100 miles an hour, I'd be scared. Some nice finesse around the rim as well. So it's not just going to be all big dunks. It's going to be moving out the way in air and making plays and at least getting 2 points if you can't get 3. So the thing is, I don't have any stats about him playing basketball. He definitely played in the Professional Basketball Association for the Thunder, the team that they've got there, the Thunder, right? I want to say Lancaster, but I didn't note it down, and I feel bad now. But it's definitely the Thunder, definitely Professional Basketball Association in America, but there's no stats for him. There's like stats for one game, and I'm not going to go off of those because that's ridiculous, but especially if I can't see the play. So we just don't know much about him. Again, you'll hear this. This is their 6th round pick. Their 7th round pick is Deontay Bird, 29 years old and from Gainesville, Florida. He is their backup stopper, and he is a big guy, and I like that. He is 6'7", 212 pounds, but I cannot find anything about him online outside of what SlamBall says, right? Doesn't have a big Instagram presence, can't find him on Twitter, whatever. All they said is that he was a standout athlete at East Side High, where he earned first team all area honours in basketball. Fine. He's got a little bit of high school experience, great. The thing that they're mostly talking about is that he is the son of George Bird, former SlamBall player, one of my favourite nicknames in the world, which is Big Sandwich. Sorry, I love the nickname Big Sandwich. Big Sandwich, George Bird. I can only assume because he's sandwiching the ball, like in his hands or against the backboard, who was a big-time stopper in SlamBall. I really like how George Bird played. Deontay's his son. He's got another son who's in the league this season, Donovan Bird, who plays for the Ozone. Excited to see what he can do as well. But there's just not much in Deontay. Not much outside of his family history. Not much out of his, like, this one statement about high school. Great. But he's big. With that lineage and with the relationship he's got with his dad, you've got to assume that he's going to be an excellent reserve stopper. And that is what I think he's going to be, a reserve stopper. On to the coaching staff. I said from the beginning that the Mob are the winningest team in SlamBall history. The next closest would be the Rumble, who we'll talk about later, and Coach Ken Carter. They are probably the next closest. They've only got 1 championship. The Mob have 3. Okay? And every title and every season of the Mob being a decent to good team, right, has been head coached by Brendan Kirsch, okay? Coached them in previous seasons, won back-to-back championships in the last 2 seasons in China, 2012 and 2016, also won in 2007. Head coach every season, so you assume he knows a little bit about SlamBall. Do you know who else knows a little bit about SlamBall? His assistant coach, Noah Ballou, one of my favourite players to watch in the 2016 China series. He's just fun. He's a handler that really understands the game and the best way to unlock all of his teammates' potential, right? His 1-2 game with Lu Feng was incredible. He did, I think he won the dunk contest in 2016 that they had, the dunk Grand Prix. Exciting guy, but also knows how to make plays. Very creative in the air, excellent at distributing the ball, excellent running an offense. Him is the guy to teach these handlers on this team, to give some advice to Cameron Horton and to Brandon Simpson is going to be beautiful. Beautiful to watch. Why is it going to be so beautiful as an added thing of being able to score, being able to dunk, being able to distribute? I said earlier, as we move into talking about a projected starting four, I think that this team is going to play with 2 handlers and 1 gunner. So I think your starting stopper is Gage Smith, potential all-star. Then you've got 2 handlers in Cameron Horton, potential all-star, and Brandon Simpson, who I would be pleased as punch if he was an all-star, but I don't think it's a potential. I'm not as high on him as I am the other 2 guys, even though I had to talk myself into Gage Smith today, but ignoring the first half of this podcast, apart from all my great analysis. Gage Smith at the back, Cameron Horton and Brandon Simpson in the middle, and then Darius Clark at your top part as a gunner. Now, this might be odd in standard SlamBall because you're taking away one of like your main scorers, but I'm looking at Brandon Simpson as a guy who's going to shoot threes or gun to the basket. Cameron Horton can find him with the ball. Gage Smith can get the ball to any of the 3 of them. I think this is a good team. Maybe someone that's going to challenge the lava. Maybe that guy. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. What about their 5th man? I have no idea. We've been over it. The first 4 guys are all decent to really good. And then the 3 reserves, there's just nothing I can tell you about. There's just nothing on them. They're good leapers. They're seeming to grasp SlamBall quickly compared to some other people, or at least what they're putting out there. They're invested in the game and getting everyone to know who they are. But I just can't get a read on them. So I don't know who their 5th man's going to be, and that's a weakness for me. That's a weakness for me. Let's talk about the weaknesses from them. Jesus Christ. Threw my pen halfway across the room. Let's talk about the weaknesses that the mob might face. So the first one is no great distribution inside the top half of the court. Gage Smith is the guy with the highest assist numbers coming out of college, but ideally you want him hanging back more often than going forward. It's just a defensive liability in SlamBall. Nothing on his speed at getting back. It's just really hard to defend a basket if you're always up high. I like him as a 3-point shooter. I like him as a distributor, and that's great. But I don't want that to be, I would like if that's like 10% of their plays. 10 to 30% of their plays involving the stopper coming up, great. Anything other than that, I'd rather he's playing defensively, you know. I'd rather he be back there so that if they do make it past Brandon Simpson as a beast of a defender in the midcourt, Gage Smith is there under the basket. So he's their best assist guy, and I don't want him being in a half-court setting. I'm not sure how it's going to work with Horton, Simpson, and Clark. They might be able to work that out amongst them. Hopefully they will, but that's a flaw. Weird backgrounds for this team. 4 out of 7 don't have any serious experience with basketball or football past high school, and that's like the heart of what makes SlamBall is basketball and football ability. The fact that they don't have anything major for 4 of the 7 guys is a slight concern. They've got a lot of leapers. They've got a lot of high flyers. They've got a lot of guys that are going to make impressive dunks, and that's great. Those are worth 3 points each time. Maybe you'll score a bunch. I just don't know about distribution. I don't know about shooting. I don't know about defense. Their starting 4 are all great, but one of them, you can't find anything about him playing basketball. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, right? And on that, there's no one that wows me from an eye test standpoint. I've said there's 2 guys that are potential all-stars, 1 guy that's like, I'd love it if he was. But because 4 out of the 7 are lacking in data in some way, purely on eye test, none of them are jumping out at me, okay? None of them are like, I love this guy. I want him to do well. And that's just an eye test thing. And there's nothing I can do about that. Maybe it's not a weakness. Maybe I was reaching. I probably was. But Gage Smith, Cameron Horton, Brandon Simpson, Darius Clark, anyone that's team impress me, do really well, and I'll buy a mob jersey with your name on it. The more I talk about this, the more I'm talking myself into buying a jersey from, like, 1 jersey from each team. We'll see how the season goes. Those are the weaknesses for the mob. This is the strengths. Coaching experience. I think I waxed lyrical pretty good about the winningest coach in league history, the most championships as a franchise, desire to keep winning. They're not going to let up. Brandon Kirsch is like, I'm Phil Jackson. I'm the Phil Jackson of SlamBall. And I've only done it in 4-team leagues, 4-team seasons. I need to do it now. I need to do it in an 8-team season. I need to prove I can do it at all levels. His assistant coach, Noah Ballou, equally hungry. Equally, guys like, I've won 2 championships in my last 2 years as a player. I want to keep winning. I want to keep winning, and I want to win with this next generation. That is scary stuff if you're looking at the bench and those are the guys you're having to coach against. In terms of the stopper position, they've got multiple options. I'm really high on Gage Smith by the sounds of things. I'm really high on him, higher than I thought it was going to be before I started this review. Deontay Bird remains to be seen, but he's got size. 2 guys who are, if I knew more about Bird's stats, if he'd been drafted higher than the 7th round, maybe you could even talk yourself into saying he's a starter. The fact he's 7th round is, again, SlamBall's doing a documentary series. They want stories, and having the Bird brothers against each other and the sons of former players is good for that. Maybe that's why they're on a team. Maybe they're going to be beasts. And if they're beasts, I'd like him being a beast at the stopper. Also, Brandon Simpson as a rest option. Again, he's slightly shorter at 6'4", but he's got the width, he's got the size, he's a big dude. Like, just watching him play, he's broad. And that's something I held back against Gage Smith. So, you've got 2 guys who've got size and should be good. And if one of them needs a rest, if they start to get injuries, if Bird can't play at the stopper, Gage Simpson, really good rest option for the Mob. And finally, I think a big advantage in the air, specifically from the handler position. We talked about, in previous reviews, being able to punish defensive stoppers as a handler, if they're not paying attention, to just go at them. And the Mob can do that. Both Cameron Horton and Darius Clark, size-wise, he should probably be a gunner rather than a handler. Sorry, not Darius Clark. What am I talking about? Both Cameron Horton and Brandon Simpson can hang in the air, can float, can make dunks. And, I'd like to see them do that and be big and make impressive plays. And again, Darius Clark is a guy who is known for being able to stay up there as a long jumper, as a professional, as a guy who's known for getting up high. And I just think they're going to have a lot of advantages in the air going up against, slow to get back stoppers, or maybe guys who don't have the timing quite down, or can't read the timing from 2 guys who are supposed to just be distributing the ball going straight at you. That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard to contest with. Now, don't let the length of this one fool you. The shortest preview pod we've done thus far for the 2023 SlamBall season here at Bounce Off. Don't let that fool you. I'm very high in the Mob. I think they're probably, out of the 4 teams we've talked about, they're probably my second favourites thus far. I like them. I think Vegas odds setters have them really high as well, just in coaching and based on, their heritage as a franchise. I think Vegas is high on them. We'll talk about that definitely closer to the season starting, and I'm high on them. I think the Lava's a lot to overcome with size, and I don't know if the Mob can compete with that, but we'll see. We'll see. Their 3-point shooting's comparable to the Lava. Their rugged determination. I don't know. I like the Mob. And I like you. Thank you for watching this. I like you, whoever you are. Thank you for watching a Bounce Off a SlamBall podcast, our 4th season preview. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you for following us on all your favourite podcasting apps. Thank you for following me on Twitter at Quantum Roberts, QUANTUM Roberts. We'll have 3 more previews coming Monday, Wednesday, Friday of this week. And then we'll have a couple other things coming out the next week when it's starting to we're close to Bounce Off, right? We're close to why is it called Bounce Off? Because that's how they start the games in SlamBall. You bounce off, I'm bouncing off now, thank you.